The plane landed. Everyone clapped. She didn't. 4 days later, she sat alone in a room that wasn't hers, staring at a phone she didn't want to answer. "Are you okay in America?" She could have lied. She almost did. But the truth was colder. No one had warned her how quiet this country could be, how fast people move past you, how easy it is to disappear without anyone noticing. This was only her first week, and already America felt less like a dream and more like a test she didn't know how to pass. The first morning, she woke up before the sun, not because she was excited, because her body didn't know where it was anymore. The room was quiet, too quiet. Back home, mornings had sound, voices, movement, life already happening before you opened your eyes. Here, the silence felt deliberate. She lay still, listening, waiting for something familiar to break it. Nothing did. Eventually, she got up. The floor was cold under her feet. The walls felt temporary, like she was living inside someone else's life. She checked her phone. No messages, no missed calls. For a moment, she felt ridiculous for expecting any. Time zones didn't care about feelings. She stood by the window and looked down at the street. People walked quickly, headphones in, eyes forward. No one looked lost, no one looked unsure. Everyone seemed to know exactly where they were going. She didn't. She reminded herself why she came. Opportunity, growth, a better future. That's what everyone says. She repeated the words quietly, like they might protect her. By mid-morning, hunger forced her outside. The door closed behind her with a heavy click. Too final. She hesitated for a second, hand still on the handle, suddenly aware of how alone she was. Then she stepped onto the street. The city was louder now. Cars, voices, sirens somewhere far away. No one slowed down. She followed the flow, careful not to stand out. Inside the grocery store, the lights were bright and unforgiving, rows and rows of choices she didn't recognize, brands she'd never seen, food she couldn't pronounce. She picked up items slowly, reading labels like they were exams. At the checkout, the cashier spoke without looking at her. Fast, casual, she caught every third word. She nodded anyway. The line behind her shifted impatiently. Her heart started racing. Paper or plastic? The question landed too late. She froze for half a second too long. The cashier repeated it, slightly louder this time. She answered, her voice softer than she meant it to be. The transaction ended without another word. No smile, no explanation. She walked out holding bags that felt heavier than groceries should. Outside, she exhaled. Her hands were shaking, and she hated that something so small could make her feel so weak. That afternoon, she tried to be productive. She opened her laptop, updated her resume, changed the formatting, reread every line. Back home, her experience meant something. Here, it felt uncertain. She applied anyway. One job, then another. Each click of submit came with a quiet hope. Each minute after came with silence. By evening, she had already received replies, polite, efficient. "Thank you for your interest." She stopped reading after that. The apartment felt smaller now, the walls closer. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, replaying the day. Nothing terrible had happened, no one had been cruel, and yet she felt completely drained, not physically, mentally, emotionally. She realized something that scared her. In America, no one slows down for you. You either keep up or you fall behind quietly. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She thought about home, about how easy it used to be to belong, how you could walk into a room and be known. Here, she was starting from zero. No history, no context, no safety net. Just expectations she didn't fully understand. As the city hummed outside, she made herself a promise. She wouldn't cry tonight. She would learn, even if it meant feeling uncomfortable, even if it meant feeling small. Because whatever America was, it wasn't going to wait for her to catch up. The mistake didn't feel like a mistake. That's what made it dangerous. The next morning, she decided to try harder, not emotionally, practically. She dressed more carefully. Neutral colors, nothing that drew attention. She practiced smiling in the mirror. Not too much, not too little, just enough to seem normal. She told herself today would be different.
Outside, the city looked the same, unbothered, unchanged. She found a small cafe near the apartment, the kind with tall windows and too many choices on the menu. She stood in line, rehearsing. "Hi, can I get a coffee, please?" No, that sounds wrong. "Hi, may I have a coffee?" Too formal. Her turn came faster than expected. The barista looked up. "What can I get for you?" The words tangled in her mouth. She hesitated just a second too long. The barista waited, then shifted their weight. The silence stretched.
She finally ordered. The barista nodded, typed something quickly, and said a price she didn't catch. She froze again. "I'm sorry?" she asked. The barista repeated it, louder, flatter. People behind her sighed, not loudly, not rudely, just enough for her to notice. She paid, stepped aside, heart pounding. It wasn't embarrassment that hurt. It was the feeling of being in the way. When her name was called, it wasn't her name. It was close, but wrong. She didn't correct it. She took the cup and said thank you anyway. Outside, she stared at the lid. She had crossed an ocean for this life, and here she was, afraid to say her own name. Later that day, she decided to walk. No destination, just movement. She passed groups of people laughing together, coworkers, friends, families. Everyone seemed connected to something. She checked her phone. No new messages. Back home, someone would have called by now, asked how the day was going, invited her somewhere. Here, the silence followed her. Not aggressively, just consistently. The real mistake happened that evening. Her cousin invited her to join him and a few friends for dinner. "You should come," he said. "It'll be good for you." She said yes before fear could stop her. At the restaurant, the table was already full. People talked over each other easily. Jokes landed quickly. She smiled, nodded. Someone asked her where she was from. She answered. They smiled politely. Then the conversation moved on, without her. She waited for another question. None came. She tried to join in once, just once. She told a short story, something funny back home. The timing was wrong. The joke didn't land. There was a pause. Someone smiled anyway. Then another voice filled the space. The conversation kept going, without her. She took a sip of water to hide her face. This was the moment, the one no one talks about, when you realize being invited doesn't mean you belong. On the way home, she didn't speak much. No one noticed. That night, the room felt smaller than before. She sat on the bed, shoes still on, replaying everything. The cafe, the name, the joke. She wondered which part of her was wrong. Her accent, her timing, her confidence, or all of it. She opened her phone and scrolled through photos from home. Smiling faces, familiar places. She stopped at one picture. Herself, laughing, relaxed, sure of who she was. She barely recognized that person now. That's when the thought finally formed, clear and terrifying. What if this never gets easier? What if this feeling of always being slightly out of place was the price of this dream? Her chest tightened. The tears came again, quiet, controlled. She wiped her face quickly, like someone might be watching. No one was. And somehow, that made it worse. Because the truth was becoming impossible to ignore. America wasn't rejecting her. It simply didn't notice her yet. And tomorrow she would have to decide, keep shrinking to fit or risk being seen. The change didn't happen overnight. It happened the next morning in the smallest possible way. She woke up tired, still unsure, still afraid, but something was different. She wasn't trying to disappear anymore. She stood in front of the mirror and noticed how carefully she had been shrinking herself, lowering her voice, softening her opinions, avoiding eye contact, as if being smaller would make things easier. It hadn't. So she made a decision, not to be loud, not to be fearless, just to stop apologizing for existing. That afternoon she had an appointment,
a temporary work orientation she almost didn't go to. Temporary work, nothing impressive, but it mattered. The building was bigger than she expected, the lobby louder. People checked in quickly, confidently. When it was her turn, the receptionist looked up. Name? She said it, clearly. The receptionist paused, looked at the screen, then repeated it, correctly. It was such a small thing, but her chest loosened just a little. In the orientation room, chairs filled up fast. Different accents, different ages. She wasn't the only one this time. The supervisor began explaining instructions, fast, detailed. She felt the old panic arising, the urge to nod without understanding. She caught herself. Her hand lifted before fear could stop it. Sorry, can you repeat that last part? The room didn't freeze. No one sighed. The supervisor repeated the instruction. Slower.
Clearer. A few people nodded in relief. She wasn't the only one who hadn't understood. That was the moment she realized something important. Asking questions wasn't weakness here. Silence was. Later, they were split into small groups. This was the higher stakes part. Talking, interacting, being seen. Someone asked where she was from. She answered. Another person smiled and said, "My mom's from there." The conversation lingered, just a little longer than before. She spoke again. This time, she didn't rush. She didn't overthink. She just spoke. And for the first time all week, no one talked over her. The win wasn't applause. It wasn't praise. It was something quieter. She felt normal, not foreign, not invisible, just present. That evening, she walked home differently. Same streets, same city, but her shoulders were lower, her steps steadier. She passed the cafe from before, went inside, stood in line. When it was her turn, she ordered without rehearsing. The barista repeated the order, got it right. When they asked her name, she said it. They wrote it correctly. She smiled, not because it was perfect, but because it was enough. Back in her room, she sat on the bed again, same place she had cried days earlier. She picked up her phone. There was a new message. Still adjusting? She paused, then typed, "It's hard, but I'm learning." And for the first time since arriving, that felt honest. She understood now. The first week in America wasn't meant to make you feel powerful. It was meant to humble you, to strip away who you were so you could rebuild who you needed to become. She still missed home, still felt scared sometimes, but she wasn't broken. She was adapting. And if she could survive the loneliness, the mistakes, the quiet moments no one warned her about, then maybe, just maybe, this place wouldn't erase her. It would shape her. Because the truth is, America doesn't welcome you loudly. It waits to see if you're willing to stay. You've built a real story here. Just tell me the next move.
Subscribe to Crossing Realities for more immigrant stories that educate, inspire, and keep you on the edge of your seat. Like this video if it made you think about the challenges of starting over. Comment below. Have you ever faced a rule you didn't know existed? Share your story and let's learn together. Remember, every story here is more than just entertainment. It's a guide, a mirror, and a reminder that you are never alone. And if you want to see what happens next when immigrants face unexpected challenges, click on the next video. Your journey, your lessons, your growth. This is only the beginning.